Good morning and good afternoon and good evening wherever you are, and welcome to this week's episode of Life Mastery TV. My name is David McLeod and I'm here with my good friend Tommy Stoffel and also our good friend Joanne Roderman. We are going to have a fabulous time talking about forgiveness in advance. So Tommy, good morning. How are you doing, bro? Good to see you again.
Hey David, hey Joanne. Welcome everybody and happy to be here as always. I'm doing great, thanks, and I'm doing great in part because of today's topic and what it's done for me as it's become part of what I've practiced in life. And today's topic is called pre-forgiveness, which I don't know where it came from, but that's where the term it came out of somewhere in me, and now we're going to talk about it and understand what it means and the benefits of it. And before we do that, or as we do that, I'd like to introduce Joanne again. Joanne, welcome to us. You are the Queen of Forgiveness. You have a book called The Habit of Forgiveness with a foreword by Desmond Tutu, all an amazing accomplishment in its own right. And to me, you represent what is forgiveness. So hello, Joanne. Welcome, and a big hug to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Tommy. And hello, Tommy, and hello, David. It's very, very good to be on the show with you once again. I think y'all do an awesome show, and it's delightful and inspiring and empowering and all of that. And I appreciate you having me on, and I appreciate any time I get to talk about what you're calling pre-forgiveness. I think that's a great term. I sort of wish I had thought of that when I was coming up with a title for the book. I think it's good.
Yeah.
Looking forward to talking about it with you.
All right.
Yeah, I'm so glad to have you here too, Joanne. And you know what I'm thinking is the last time we were together, it was my camera that didn't work. And here today, we're having a problem with your camera. I'm not sure what's going on with cameras, but hey, we're going to do the best we can, and at least we can hear you. And we've got your headshot there, so people know what you look like. Maybe the camera will just magically come on partway through, and we'll let's pre-forgive the technology, shall we?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So anyway, Tommy, I remember when you and I were talking about this, when we had an episode some time ago, and this whole concept of forgiving in advance came up in that conversation. So I'd like to have you share a little bit about what it means to you and how we can start to create more of this in the world.
All right. Well, thanks, David. Let's just start from where we are right now. And where we are right now, it's kind of a rhetorical question, is that we're here in this moment. And we'll say this over and over again, that when you're more living life in the moment is when life is freer, it's happier, it's all those things that we expect life to be. It's loving, it's caring, but we have to be in the moment. And when we're not in the moment, where are we? Well, we're not physically like in the past or physically in the future, but our brain takes us into the past, or our brain takes us into the future. Now, we've talked a lot about how we get dragged, the magnet of the past, and how our mind takes us there with regrets and remorse. And Joanne can expound on this topic of how bringing that, like I call it now, this bag of forgiveness with us when we even venture into the past in our mind. We bring all this forgiveness with us because, heck, we didn't know what we were doing. And we have to forgive ourselves for we knew not what we do. And we forgive others. For most of the people, unconsciously are doing things and behaviors that cause us trouble, or we cause ourselves trouble. So this is the world of suffering. And in this world of suffering is an imagined place in our mind. Our mind takes us there. Likewise, the future. And I'm going to try to
Pre-forgive the phone.
Answer this and then hang up on it. All right. If that was you calling me, I apologize. But the thing is, right, in the moment. So if we're not in the moment, our mind is in some sort of turmoil. If we're not dreaming about the future or having beautiful memories of the past, more likely we're tormenting ourselves about something in the past or the future. So as I really learned about forgiveness, and then Joanne really helped me understand this even deeper, I thought, well, if we can forgive the past, what can we do about the future? And then this idea came in of like, well, can we pre-forgive things? Can we like not be surprised when things go bad? Can we not be angry when something happens that we know people aren't going to be heavenly and beautiful, and I'm not perfect. I know I'm going to mess up in the future. I know other people are going to mess up. I know there's going to be causes for more suffering yet to come.
Yeah.
So what can I do to circumvent that? And here we are talking about this concept of pre-forgiveness. So there's the intro. Take it away.
Okay. I would love to talk about that. And I want to start with looking at 3 habits I say we all have. I call them negative habits, but it doesn't matter what you call them. We all have these 3 things that get in the way of forgiving, of pre-forgiving, that get in the way of that block us, that lock us into the ways we do things, what we think. And you talk about dragging along that bag of things that we carry around with us. There are 3 things that we all do that we need to get conscious of. And one is blaming. We all blame, whether it's others or ourselves. We do it unconsciously. Just, I forget, I'm not, you can't see me. Anyway, I'm doing things here like you can see me. We all blame others or ourselves, and frequently both. We all have this need to be right. I'm right, and by golly, if you're saying something I know is wrong, I want you to know that it's wrong, and I'm right. Don't you tell me I'm wrong. I know I'm right.
Right.
And you need to get how wrong you are. You know, there was someone heard me speaking one time and talking about this, and he came up to me afterwards and said, there's an acronym for what you talk about the need to be right. It's called WAR, W-A-R, we are right.
Uh-huh.
And it causes war between countries, between societies, between social groups, between families, family members. The need to be right causes war. And we just, it's so unconscious. We just do it without thinking. And then there's the negative judging that we all do. We see somebody we think is, what's the matter with that person? And we judge them. And so I say that what we need to do is get conscious of these 3 things that we all do and let them go. When we catch ourselves doing it, say, oh, yeah, that's me doing that again. Or, oh, yeah, just like me. Oh, yeah, that person, just like me. And if you can say just like me, and let your mind scream and say, yep, laugh about it just like me, you can let a lot of things go. That's just the start. It's a way of getting conscious of what we drag around all the time. The need to be right, the blaming, and the...
those 3 things that I heard.
Go ahead.
Blaming. We have a tendency to blame ourselves or to blame other people. The second thing is, and I do believe these are related, by the way, is the need to be right. This perceived belief in my mind that I have to be right. And then finally the judgments that we carry around about other people, and failing to notice that really those judgments are just about ourselves anyway, because any judgment I have about you is merely a reflection of something that I just don't want to look at in myself. It's a projection. And so often so really I think the third thing would be projecting. So blaming, being right, and projecting. Those seem like the 3 things that you're talking about there.
Sounds good. Sounds good to me. Yeah, I think those are the 3 things. I like the way you summarized it. It's very good.
Yeah, and Tommy, I thought you were going to say something.
Oh, no, I was actually just writing those down. They're spot on, Joanne, and exactly right. So let's maybe talk about those concepts, right, Joanne? You introduce them. Let's talk about how we can apply this concept of blame into the future, or our needing to be right into the future, or our judgments into the future, and see how we can maybe dissolve some of those hooks. So the idea here, and maybe it's obvious to everybody, is that if we can it's like pre-planning for a vacation, right? You plan things, you plan for anomalies, you plan for things to be late, you plan for situations to occur. And if you have a good plan, or you identify the risks in advance, then when stuff happens, you're not surprised by it, and you don't get all caught up in it, and you can deal with it much more rationally. So this is all this concept of kind of pre-thinking about the future a little bit and saying, you know what, I can expect people to do silly things. I can expect ideas come out of my head or things come out of my mouth that I wish I hadn't said. I can expect, and we just do a little pre-thinking. And if we do this, then this idea of blaming and having to be right and judging or projecting, we can dissolve. What we're doing is we're dissolving future pain for ourselves. We're not planting seeds of more suffering in our future.
I like that. That's really nice, and I also like your word hooks. Maybe that's another episode for another time, but I think that's a powerful word, and I think a word that maybe we just kind of gloss by it without really realizing it. We are hooked by certain behaviors, and let's face it. There's a certain way that being right actually feels good. There's a certain way that judging somebody and just being self-righteous somehow feels good. It gets the ego kind of going and feeling all excited about itself. And yet, it's a toxic kind of goodness. It's kind of like feeding yourself candy and expecting that to be a healthy thing to do. For a moment, it may give you some gratification, but after a while, what happens is you get the sugar drop and the negative impact that comes about as a result of eating that candy in the first place. And I really love this whole notion of planning for potential disaster. I mean, I think that's awesome. And that's often how we see things, isn't it? I mean, that's what leads us to judge and blame in the first place. We see a disaster, even though it may not really be a disaster, but that's what our mind thinks. And so we get all up in arms, we get all upset, we get all warrior-like about it, and we start going out and killing people and knocking them down and hurting them and creating more chaos and pain. So thank you, Tommy, for that. That's a beautiful, beautiful metaphor.
Yeah, I think it's very good also. I thought it was excellent. And I'd like to just add something to the whole idea of preparing for those things to come, to happen. And that is to set up catching yourself doing it. Play a game. Make it a game.
Yeah.
Catch yourself. How many times can you catch yourself? I blamed today. Oh, that's one time. Okay, and then you're going to, I'm blaming again. I caught myself doing, okay, that's 2 times. I caught myself. How many times during the day? Can you catch yourself 10 times? Can you catch yourself 20 times? Or the need to be right. Play a game of catching yourself. Yeah. And that way you become conscious, because mostly we're unconscious of doing that. We do it, unless you've really worked on it. Unless you've studied it and worked on it and thought about it a lot, you don't realize you're doing it most of the time. So I say, instead of making yourself bad and wrong, I did it again. Bleep, 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 bleep. Here I go again. I can't help it. No, laugh about it. Oh my gosh, I caught myself again. Okay, that's 3 times. Okay, how many more times can I catch myself? Play with it. Have fun.
I love that idea. It kind of reminds me of Toastmasters a little bit, because one of the roles in Toastmasters is this awe counter, the Wizard of Oz, that role whose job is to keep track of how many times I use crutch words.
Yes.
Well, why don't I engage an internal blame counter or an internal righteousness counter or an internal judgment counter? I love that idea. And the idea is not to, as you say, not to make me wrong for doing it, but just notice, today I did this many. And maybe tomorrow I will do the same number, or maybe I'll do less. Maybe just by being aware of it, then I can start, calming myself down in advance, making myself more prepared so that the next time a similar situation happens, there's less likelihood that I'm going to blame, try to be right, or start projecting.
Right.
And all this too, what you guys are saying too, is Joanne, you said laugh at it, and this concept of forgiveness to me has become like this magic fairy dust. I just sprinkle it on things. It's like a special spice that kind of takes away the negative or the bitterness of something. It's not adding to more shame. So like if we're even playing a game of catching myself doing the blame thing or catching myself doing the judgment, our tendency is to then beat ourselves up. You did it again. Oh, whack. Whack, you idiot. I can't believe you. And we start feeling shame and blame. We blame ourselves then, right? We turn the judgment and the blame and the righteousness on ourselves. But this pre-forgiveness concept is to laugh at it. Look, I know I'm not perfect. Look, I know I'm going to goof up. I know somebody else is going to goof up. I know the world is still a goofy place. Let's just fucking laugh at it a little bit and just be kind of ready for it and not be surprised by it and then not get down by it and not get put down by it and not get weighed down by it and not get all that heaviness again. So laughing at it, making a game of it, and sprinkling it with this, this pre-forgiveness, this forgiveness dust, fairy dust, is exactly what we're talking about. I love the talk and the conversation.
Yes.
Yeah, and I would say that laughter and forgiveness they're virtually the same energy.
I agree. And that's why I say make a game. Make a game of letting it go. Make a game of catching yourself and letting it go. How fast can you catch yourself and let it go? Say, oh, I did it again, and just let it go. And that's setting you up for the things that help you then really truly forgive. And then if you really need to forgive some situation.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, that just touches upon something else beautiful, Joanne, because right, the little stuff maybe we don't get all hung up on, we don't hold a lot of resentment, but if we have a habit of the blaming and a habit of the judging and a habit of the not forgiving, and even on the little things, then like you just alluded to, it's going to make letting go of the big stuff hard because you haven't practiced it. It's like all of a sudden somebody's put 300-pound weight on you and you've never held a weight before, and you get crushed by it. So by daily just kind of laughing at things and letting things go and letting them roll off our shoulders and practicing with little weights, then when the big stuff comes, you're going to be ready for it, and it's going to change your life, right?
Right, exactly. And there are certain things we can do to practice, so that we're ready for what you're just saying, for the bigger things that are very upsetting. There are certain practices that I say help us forgive, help us be ready to forgive, help us make forgiveness just a way we enter every moment,
Right.
rather than having to stop and forgive somebody. Oh gosh.
Such a chore.
So
You guys were talking about habits, and I just want to bring some awareness about this. If you think about it for a moment, almost every habit we have is an unconscious one, and that's why we wear it like a habit. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
We start doing things, and they work for us on some level, and then we kind of forget about them. And usually, a lot of these things start when we're kids, anyway. And back in the day when we were kids, we did things that maybe they helped us get through something really, really difficult or traumatic or whatever, and we took it into our heads. Oh, that's a great strategy. That worked. And then maybe we do it again for a similar situation that shows up in our life. But what happens is the situations are never exactly the same, and yet we're using the same strategy. And what also happens is that strategy gets put into the background. We forget about it. We start doing it without even knowing it. And that's precisely what I think happens with blaming and judgment and projection and all the other things that we do of having to be right. I think that we make a habit of it and we don't even know we're doing it. So a big part of this, and what I like about this game idea, is it helps me to raise awareness about a habit I might have, so that I now have some information and I can have a place of choice now. I can look at my habit and say, is this habit serving me or not? And I can decide whether it's time to find a new habit, or maybe just stop having habits altogether and consciously do everything from a place of awareness.
Oh, that's good. That's really good. Yeah, I like that very much. Go ahead. I think it takes some practice. It takes practice. It isn't something that you just do one day.
Right.
Just because you decide you want that or you're going to do that, it takes practice.
Absolutely.
So, David, taking going into the depth of bringing habits into consciousness, right? It's like anything that's kind of happens in the background, in the unconscious. Whenever I think of unconscious and conscious, it's impacting my life. The unconscious actions and the habits and the blaming and all those things that are unconscious habits are like they're like in a dark spot in my mind. They're like there's no light on them. They're just happening back there, and they happen. And they blah blah blah, and they come out of me. I'm like, oh shit! I'm sort of going. Oh, I did that again. Oh, but the bringing things into consciousness is just a matter of shining light on it. We're just becoming aware of it, and just by talking about blaming and judgment and being right all the time. Somebody used to tell me in a relationship, would you rather be right or would you rather be happy? And
I'd rather be right and happy.
Well, I like being right, but not at the expense of somebody else being wrong.
Right.
I don't need to make a loser out of somebody else along the way. That's where I draw the line with right. I don't know where I was going with that, except that it's habits, and it's bringing into consciousness, into awareness, and these tools we teach. And Joanne, I want you to kind of give us an example, because you started this conversation a little bit ago talking about a practice or a technique or a tool to help kind of do some of these things. But that's it. We bring it to awareness, we make a game of it, and laugh at it, and do something to dislodge it from the inside of us, and then we can get rid of it.
Yes, great. Yes. The number one tool I teach that I think is so extremely important is gratitude. You've heard me say this many, many, many times. Mm-hmm. And I'm not so many of the speakers out there talking about this kind of thing teach gratitude. The gratitude is extremely powerful. And I think we don't realize it until we get into doing it and start doing it every day. It is just, it's amazing how powerful it is to really express gratitude, not just sort of be aware that, yeah, I'm grateful for things. Yeah. No, I mean really stop and write some things down. Stop and say, I am grateful for, and actually express what you're grateful for, and maybe do it several times a day. It lightens you up. If you're feeling down, it makes you feel better. You know, if you're stuck in some situation, you get unstuck. It helps you do that. It just changes your life and all your feelings. So I cannot recommend gratitude highly enough. Every day, expressing gratitude.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things that I find extremely powerful, and sometimes I need to be reminded about gratitude, because sometimes I get into a place where I'm angry about something or whatever, and things aren't going the way I want them to. Someone else is making me wrong, and I want to make them wrong. I get caught up in that stuff, and I think what I have this is something I've experienced in the past, is when I can step back, calm myself down, and then I can actually look for a way of being grateful for that thing that is causing me so much pain.
Exactly.
Or the pain that I imagine that is being created as a result of that. When I get to that level of gratitude, I think, that is like the super level of gratitude. That is the level where all of a sudden healing happens instantly. It certainly happens within me instantly when I get to that level of gratitude. But sometimes I have to go through the little hill, the trough, before I can realize, oh, it's time for me to do some healing and get myself back into that place of gratitude. But I agree with you 100%. It is like absolutely the best. It is the stepping stone into the concept of forgiveness. Once I'm grateful, forgiveness just flows naturally out of me.
Exactly, it does. And we want to get to the place that you were touching on, that we can be grateful for whatever's happening, be grateful for whoever has come into our lives, whether we think they're wonderful and we're so glad they're there, or whether we think they're awful and wish we'd never see them again or hear them. We can be, because we can learn. It's given us the opportunity to learn and grow and get more into the pre-forgiveness. Get more into forgiving just being there, and it takes those situations. We think we shouldn't have them, but in fact, that's what helps us get more and more into pre-forgiving, or the forgiveness habit, as I say, whichever. Being grateful for everyone and everything that comes into our lives, no matter what it seems like.
I just want to take a moment and acknowledge Kathleen, who's dropped a couple of beautiful gems onto the chat window. The most recent one says, "Sitting here just thinking about gratitude moves me. I'm grateful for you, Joanne, my friend." So I guess you know who that is, Joanne, and
I do.
I'm grateful that Kathleen is here.
Yes, I am too. Thank you, Kathleen. Thank you for being here and for communicating that way. It's awesome to have you here.
Hey, Kathleen. I was just thinking that gratitude is the gateway drug to happiness.
I like that. Wow.
Because it's a gateway. It's a all-encompassing skill, and it's an easy thing to practice, and it's such a powerful practice.
It is.
It's a gateway to a lot of freedom and a lot of openness and a lot of ease of life.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's so powerful. The late great Dr. Wayne Dyer used to say that every morning he woke up, as he rolled out of bed and his feet touched the floor, as his feet touched the floor, he would say thank you 3 times.
Wow, yes. Oh, wow, that sounds like something he would say. Oh, that's great.
I'm grateful for the day. I met a homeless man once in a Starbucks, and I said hello to him, and it was Veterans Day, and I said, how's your day going? He goes, it's going great. I go, really? I go, yeah. He goes, it's my birthday. I go, well, happy birthday. And he goes, every day's my birthday.
Oh.
He goes, every day I wake up, I'm grateful that I woke up today, and it's my birthday.
That is so good. That is so good. Wow, wow, how great. How great. Well,
sounds like another topic for us, Tommy. Every day is happy birthday.
Yeah, to learn this lesson from a homeless man. I call there are people in my life, homeless people that have taught me amazing things, and I call them street sages. And he was one of them that taught me what gratitude really is.
Yeah.
That's really, really great. Yeah. If we have just a few more minutes, could I add one other thing about one other practice I like to really, really promote? It's I'll probably combine an extra one with it, but they go together. Gratitude. There's a quote I like from John Milton. Gratitude bestows reverence, allowing us to encounter everyday epiphanies, those transcendent moments of awe that change forever how we experience life and the world. And one of the practices I recommend is feeling reverence for all, everything and everyone, reverence. And David touched on this last week when he was talking about getting out in the woods and walking in a park or in the woods and just connecting with all that's there, all of nature, and it just helps you connect to all that is, connect to everything, the universe, the divine, and that allows us to get our oneness with all that is. And when you can when you can really get your oneness with all that is, then forgiveness, again, just becomes a natural kind of thing. Gratitude and reverence for all and oneness just makes forgiveness natural and simple and a way of being instead of an effort to have to make ourselves go through once in a while.
Right.
Yeah, it becomes part of you. That's what we talk about, self-realization, and it just becoming part of it is already your essence, and you're just remembering it.
Yes.
It becomes part of you. It becomes part of every action. So the blaming naturally dissolves. The judgments naturally dissolve. The having to be right dissolves as well. And I love this concept of gratitude being the gateway because it's so powerful.
Yes. Yeah. Great. So
yeah,
I know we're out of time. Could I say one other very brief thing just to finish? Okay.
Just fill us with your love, baby.
Just to since I mentioned gratitude, reverence, and oneness, I say that the grow, GRO, in forgiveness and love. Practice daily gratitude, reverence for all, and oneness. GRO. Remember that. Grow in forgiveness and love. Practice daily gratitude, reverence, oneness.
Yeah, beautiful. And I wanted to just say something about this whole habit thing. There are plenty of things that we do unconsciously that serve us. For example, we walk. We drive cars. I mean, there's so many things we do. Most of the stuff that we can do without thinking twice. once you learn how to walk, you don't think about every step you take anymore after that. So what I'd like us to do is develop this habit of gratitude. In other words, let yourself become so ingrained in this idea of being grateful for every single moment, every single situation, every single person, every single circumstance, every event that happens in your life, that it becomes a habit that you don't even have to think about anymore. And then all of that other stuff, as we've been talking about, is just going to beautifully, magically, and wonderfully dissolve away into forgiveness and love. And reverence, which is just going to fall into play. As soon as you start forgiving and having gratitude, reverence just flows. So we are on to something here, guys. I'm really excited about this whole notion about learning how to pre-forgive, and I want to just thank you all for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. It was good to be here. Thank you for having me on the show today. I loved it. Enjoyed being with you guys so much.
Joanne, thank you, Angel, and thanks for the GROW, G-R-O. What a great foundation for people to practice in life. Lovely, and thanks for sharing that. And awesome as always talking with you, my dear friend. David, what about next week? Well, next week we're doing together. What are we doing on Christmas Day?
Yeah, so life doesn't stop just because we have holidays. And Tommy and I are so committed to doing this work that we want to have a celebration with you next week on Christmas Day, on December 25th. And so we got a guest or two who are going to be joining us, one of whom may be a surprise, one of whom may not. But we're going to call this episode Family of Choice. And I hope that you'll join us and have some fun with us again next week, and maybe we can do a little bit of Christmas celebrating as well. So until then, goodbye, and thank you for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you. It was good to be here.
Bye.